Hey guys, welcome to your weekly Money Miracles video for March 21st. I am really excited to have just gotten back from Belize. Yes, that's the real live picture that I took just a couple of days ago. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my trip with my daughter Lauren to Belize, talk about thoughts. And then we'll get into the money tip. We'll give you some of the past and upcoming events. And then I'm going to ask you a question. So stay tuned, stay for the full video. And I'm going to ask you a question, which I'd love to get your feedback on. So first of all, Belize and thoughts. So Lauren and I, my 19-year-old daughter, went to Belize last week for her spring break, as I told you guys about in past videos. And we interacted with some people who said, I always get lost, or I bump my head all the time when I get into a van like this. And then they bump their head. And they said things like, well, the ocean has a lot of crocodiles and alligators in it, so you probably don't want to go in the ocean. To another woman, which, by the way, there are no alligators in Belize, only crocodiles, and we saw some of them, quite docile, and don't disturb them, they'll be fine. So, and Lauren and I did swim with sharks that are also not dangerous. We swam with stingrays, which also are not dangerous. At least these weren't. So think about how your thoughts are creating your life and stopping you from doing some really exciting, amazing things. I stuck out a sardine for a pretty large fish to eat. And no, it didn't eat my fingers. People, they do this every day for many, many years, and no one gets hurt. So how are your thoughts driving what you're doing in your life? And what are your beliefs? Are you living your life in fear or in faith? We found that a lot of people during this trip were saying things out loud, thinking things that weren't serving them. So think about how your thoughts may not be serving you. That's my quick thought on Belize and some, as Lauren said, some life-changing moments while we were there. So let's talk about our money tip for this week. I told you guys I read The Psychology of Money, and I'll be going through some of the highlights of that book over the coming weeks. So here's another highlight. In the book, he talks about how from 1950 to 2020, over 70 years, the Dow Jones and S&P averaged approximately 11%. So if you will put your money into the stock market and assuming the same type of return over the next 30 years, and assuming you've already saved $100,000, over the next 30 years, the $100,000 will compound to $3.2 million, which would cover expenses, assuming a 6% return, very conservative, $190,000 of expenses a year, or about $16,000 a month. Plenty, I think, for most of us to live comfortably in retirement. Now, what is the price of those market returns, that 11%? The fee, the cost of admission, is the fact that it was the overall index was down at least 5% below its previous high most of that time during those 70 years from 1950 to 2020. So you have to deal with the volatility, as we've seen over this past week with some individual stocks, financial stocks in particular. But if you have a long-term perspective, and you should if you're investing in the stock market, then you can generate really great returns and save easily for retirement. So for example, one particular stock, Monster Beverage, may have heard of it, went up 320,000% from 1995 to 2018, among the highest returns in history, but it traded below its previous high 95% of the time during those 23 years. So the idea is to stay the course. If you have great companies and you bought them at good prices and they're good businesses. And I'll get into some of the 4 explicit tips that Buffett, Warren Buffett, and others recommend you use to invest in stocks over the coming weeks. So let's talk about some past and upcoming events. So last week, my interview on the Spiritual Rockstar with Daniel John Hanneman went live. This is one of the top 20 spiritual podcasts for 2023, according to Google. And Daniel, if you guys want to, here's a few highlights. You can just fast forward, by the way. I'll put the link. The link is in the email and it'll be below this video. You can just fast forward to these time periods to get some highlights. So first of all, at 4 minutes and 29 seconds, I talked about how I got started and what I'm doing right now. Many of you know. At 19 minutes, I talked about how I help people get past their negative beliefs about money and their negative beliefs about becoming rich. At 29 minutes and 37 seconds, we talked about feelings of lack and how to overcome those feelings. At 36 minutes and 30 seconds, we talked about there are people around the world who would love to be in your shoes for even just one day. You're living the dream of someone. And then at 38 to 39 minutes, I shared the first 6 of the 9 money rules. And I talked about 39 minutes, 30 seconds, how we are our own worst critic. And 40 minutes on, I will give you a free gift. So listen and listen to the podcast, you'll get a free gift. So that was the Spiritual Rockstar interview with Daniel John Hanneman. Also last week, I spoke at Embrace the Woo conference. That conference was an immersive experiential day of alternative healing and transformation. My presentation was called How to Create Money Miracles. Next week, I'm going to be interviewed on the Strive for 25 podcast with Joel Farrell. His name alone makes it a must see, much watch, much listen to podcast. I was also interviewed on Steve Kidd's radio show, Blog Talk Radio, called Thriving Entrepreneur. That'll go live in April. And my next summit is on April 28th to April 30th. It's starring Les Brown and some of his friends. It's called Recession Proof Your Business. And I'm really excited. It's going to be awesome. My speech is called How to Create Money Miracles. And finally, I'm going to be on a number of other podcasts in the coming weeks. If you want to learn how to increase your exposure by using podcasts as a guest or a host, then I'm really excited to let you know I'm adding this content next week to my membership. Joe Matz is going to be interviewed by me, and we'll share how I earned $8,000 in one day by being a podcast host. So if you want to be highlighted as a member of my network next week or in the coming weeks, email me with a few sentences about you and your business, and I'll highlight you. And my question is, do you want me to highlight a book that I've read? In this past week in Belize, I've read 3. Superhuman. I read a book called Richer, Wiser, Happier. And I'm finishing up another book. So if you guys want book highlights, I'd love to give those to you. Let me know. I'll be, again, giving you highlights of the psychology of money over the next few weeks. So thanks for watching. I believe in you.